If you've ever tried to lose weight before, this probably sounds familiar. You get motivated, you start a new diet, the scale starts moving, and for a few weeks, you actually think that this is it. It's gonna work this time. And then somewhere along the way, it stops. The weight comes back, and you're right back where you started. Maybe even a little worse off than before. And if that's happened to you more than once, I want you to know that's probably not a willpower issue. It's more than likely a strategy problem. And I get it, because the internet is a minefield. Depending on who you ask or where you look, you're going to get a completely different answer. You have influencers pushing detox teas, tech billionaires promoting extreme fasts, and doctors handing out weight loss drugs like candy. So today, we're going to cut through all of that noise. We are going to rank the most popular weight loss strategies on a tier list from F at the bottom all the way up to S tier, based on what the actual science says. So that way, you know the best versus the worst strategies for losing weight and keeping it off long-term without your metabolism or your overall health in the process. My criteria comes down to three things. First is weight loss efficacy. Does this strategy lead to significant measurable weight loss that is mostly comprised of fat mass, not just water weight, or even worse, something that leads to muscle mass loss? Second is sustainability. Can a real person with the demands of a family, a business, a high-stress career, and a social life actually stick with this for the long haul? And third, health impact. Does this strategy objectively improve your health, or does it potentially put you at risk? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where to focus your energy and what to avoid at all costs. Let's get into it. Starting with the F tier, I personally recommend that you avoid these entirely. These strategies are not only ineffective for real fat loss, but could potentially harm you in the long run. First up is detoxes and cleanses. This is the stuff that you see all over social media. Juice cleanses, tea detoxes, celery juice fasts. The claim is that they'll help you flush toxins and drop weight fast. And while there might be some validity to the flushing aspect, your body already has a world-class detoxification system. It's called your liver and your kidneys, and they do the job for free. When it comes to the weight loss, what you lose from these strategies is mostly water weight and glycogen, not fat mass. And because of that, it comes right back the second you start eating normally again. There is almost zero compelling scientific evidence to support the use of detox diets for meaningful weight management or toxin elimination. For the most part, these strategies don't really teach you anything about nutrition, and they can lead to nutrient deficiencies. Frankly, I think they also create a dangerous binge and restrict cycle with your food consumption. Next up is fat burner supplements. These claim to be thermogenic, meaning they'll raise your body temperature and melt fat away. But honestly, this is mostly marketing nonsense. While some ingredients like caffeine can have a very minor temporary effect on your metabolic rate, the impact on actual fat loss is typically negligible. A 2021 systematic review and meta-analysis concluded there is limited benefit from thermogenic dietary supplements for reducing body mass. The efficacy is practically zero, and sustainability is also zero, because if the efficacy is zero, there's nothing to sustain. And the health impact has potential to be negative. Many of these supplements contain unregulated stimulants that can cause jitters, anxiety, and heart palpitations. It's not worth it, in my opinion. These are F tier. Now for D tier. The strategies in this tier might give you some short-term results, but they have major potential flaws that make them unsustainable or potentially counterproductive in the long run. First up is aggressive chronic cardio, specifically high impact cardio like running. I want to be clear up front, cardio is A tier or even S tier for overall health, but as a primary weight loss strategy, it's a D. The logic seems sound and it's fair, because you will have a high caloric output from it, and therefore you may lose some weight, but there is high potential for muscle loss. A meta-analysis showed that while aerobic exercise, aka cardio, is effective for fat loss, excessive cardio can lead to not just a lack of muscle preservation, but actual muscle loss. And just anecdotally for a second here, most people I see doing cardio for the goal of weight loss are overdoing it, which puts them squarely in this camp. And if you didn't know, the more muscle you lose during a weight loss journey, the more likely you are to gain the weight back. Add in the risk of tendonitis and overuse injuries from high impact training while being overweight, and you could be sidelined against your will. Therefore, you stop the caloric output you were creating with the cardio, and the weight comes roaring back, sometimes leaving you heavier than where you started. D tier. Next up is low carb diets like keto and Atkins. This is basically any diet that tells you to avoid or drastically reduce carbohydrates. It can work short term, which is why it's not an F, But here's the mechanism. Removing carbs depletes glycogen, and glycogen holds water. So yes, you dump weight initially, but that weight is mostly water, not fat mass. And from a sustainability perspective, I've personally never seen someone stick to a strict low-carb diet long-term. It's socially isolating and incredibly restrictive. And from a health perspective, decades of traditional research suggests that diets very high in saturated fats can have negative implications for heart health and cholesterol. It's also worth noting that these diets were originally designed for specific medical interventions. Keto has a legitimate use case for epilepsy and potentially insulin disorders. But as a general weight loss strategy, it's got short-term efficacy, it's not very sustainable, and has potential negative health consequences, D tier. And lastly in D tier, we have GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. Is it better to take these than remain morbidly obese with comorbidities? Sure. And personally, I'm more bullish than bearish on peptide solutions long term. But the way most people are using them right now is a disaster. One major study on semaglutide found that 1 year after stopping the drug, participants had regained 2/3 of the weight that they had lost. And 18 months later, they'd gained nearly all of it back. Additionally, a significant portion of the weight lost is muscle mass. Some studies even show that most of it is muscle mass. So you end up skinny fat with a slower metabolism than when you started. For more on this, I have a full video on Ozempic and GLP-1s on my channel. I'll link it in the description below. From an efficacy perspective, yes, there is weight loss, but it's not ideal weight loss because again, most of the weight people are losing on these drugs is muscle mass, not fat mass. From a sustainability perspective, you essentially have to stay on them forever, and most people can't afford to nor want to. And from a health impact perspective, there's growing evidence of negative long-term consequences to your GI health and more. That said, again, would I rather you do these than remain morbidly obese and at risk? Yes. Obesity is a bigger problem in my opinion than the health risks being tied to GLP-1s, so it's not all bad, but it's more bad than good, which is why it's in the D tier for me. People getting stuck in this cycle of trying these F and D tier strategies, getting zero long-term results, and feeling completely helpless is exactly why I do what I do. If you're a business owner looking for an exact roadmap to lose the next 20 to 100 plus pounds and actually keep it off, there's a link in the description below to apply to work with me one-on-one. I work with a limited number of clients every year with the goal of helping them reclaim the health, the energy, and the confidence that they have lost. If that sounds interesting, check the description below to fill out an application and see if we're a good fit to work together. Now, back to the tier list. Next up is C tier. There's really only one strategy that I fit into the C tier, and it's intermittent fasting. This is where you restrict your eating to a specific window of anywhere from 2 to 8 hours each day. I'm actually a pretty big fan of it from a health and longevity perspective. There's great research on fasting for gut health and overall health metrics. And from a sustainability standpoint, I've actually seen it be more sustainable for people than low carb diets. But the problem is its efficacy. Most people think fasting itself is a magic bullet for weight loss. It's not. It only works because it can help create a calorie deficit. I've had clients who, before coming to me, were intermittent fasting for years without losing weight because yes, they were hitting that specific eating window, but within that window, they were still consuming too many calories. So the two ways I see this strategy go wrong are either one, you're doing intermittent fasting and not actually getting into a calorie deficit, so there's no weight loss. Or two, you make the eating window so small that you create too large of a deficit, which leads to muscle loss and a slower metabolism long term. A large-scale systematic review found that intermittent fasting was not significantly more effective for weight loss than simple, continuous calorie restriction. It has a ton of potential when used properly, but most people aren't doing it right. It's very easy to mess up. So because of that, it's just in the C tier for me. Now for B tier. The strategies in B tier are solid, evidence-based, and in my opinion, should be part of any effective plan. First, tracking your daily steps or increasing your NEAT. NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. These are the calories you burn from movement that isn't formal exercise. It's a much bigger deal than most people think. If you hit 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day, you can burn an extra 300 to 500 calories, which alone could be your entire calorie deficit without jeopardizing muscle mass or having high impact. So high efficacy, high sustainability, and a very positive health impact from just being a more active person overall. Next up is quality sleep. Transparently, I almost put this in C tier because it doesn't directly decrease calorie intake or increase calorie output. It's an indirect contributor for the goal of weight loss, which is what this ranking video is about. However, sleep still matters in this context, and that's why I decided to put it in B tier. Sleep deprivation throws your hunger hormones out of whack. Your body produces more ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and less leptin, the satiety hormone, which makes you more likely to overeat. Poor sleep also impairs recovery from resistance training, meaning less muscle built, and less muscle means fewer calories burned at rest. So from a weight loss efficacy standpoint, again, it's technically an indirect contributor, but from a health impact and sustainability perspective, it's off the charts. If this were a pure health habits ranking video, it would be an A or S tier every single time. But because it's indirect in nature for weight loss, I have decided to leave it here in the B tier. Now for A tier. These are the strategies that separate people who lose weight and keep it off from those who stay stuck in the yo-yo cycle forever. First up is resistance training. If you want to lose fat and keep it off, you must resistance train. Similar to sleep, if this were just an overall health ranking, it would probably be S tier. The only reason it's not is because traditional strength training doesn't burn that many active calories in a session. It's not going to build you some massive calorie deficit on its own, which is why I'd always recommend pairing it with increasing your step count or your NEAT in general. But its sustainability for weight loss is very high because it is your insurance policy against regaining the weight. Resistance training builds muscle and muscle increases your BMR, meaning you burn more calories 24/7 as a result of this. And all of the data shows us the more muscle mass you lose in a calorie deficit, the more likely you are to gain the weight back and the more total weight you gain back. From an overall health impact perspective, a meta-analysis showed that muscle strength is inversely associated with all-cause mortality. So for your overall health and longevity, it's off the charts. So we have very solid weight loss efficacy, extremely high sustainability, and extremely high overall health impact. Next up is high volume clean eating. This means filling your plate with clean, unprocessed foods that have a low calorie density, but take up a lot of physical space in your stomach and are therefore very satiating. Think fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins. 200 calories of spinach is a mountain of food. 200 calories of olive oil is not even 2 tablespoons. So the only reason this strategy is not S tier is because if you're not tracking your actual calorie consumption from these foods, it's technically still possible to overconsume even healthy high volume foods. It's very unlikely, but it's still worth noting the technicality that keeps it out of the highest ranking possible. From a sustainability perspective, it also takes a small ding because eating only clean foods can get monotonous, boring, and burn some people out. In my opinion, you're best off budgeting 10 to 20% of your calories for foods you actually enjoy, even if they're not the healthiest or highest volume on paper, but you look forward to eating them. It acts as a treat or a cheat meal. So high volume clean eating as a framework is highly effective for weight loss, generally quite sustainable if you have that small budget for fun foods, and nobody's going to argue that eating more clean, nutrient-dense foods like fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins is going to be bad for you. A tier. Finally, we have a high protein diet. Protein has the highest thermic effect of food. It's the most satiating macronutrient, and it preserves muscle mass even in a calorie deficit, ensuring the weight that you lose is mostly fat, not muscle. From an efficacy perspective, if your protein sources are lean and low fat, it's very hard to overconsume calories. The only reason this isn't S tier is because a high protein diet alone does not guarantee weight loss. Some people do high protein with too many calories. Think carnivore style eating with high fat animal meats or dairy products, and they still don't lose the weight. But assuming you're using lean protein sources and low fat cuts of meat with a high protein to calorie ratio, ideally 10 grams of protein per 100 calories or more, this is absolutely A tier. And real quick, before we move on to S tier, if you want a free guide on how to select the best lean protein sources, I have a free high protein, low calorie cheat sheet in the description below that ranks protein sources by their protein to calorie ratio. Grab that, the link is in the description. So that all brings us to the top, the S tier. And in this category is the one non-negotiable, undisputed law of weight loss, a calorie deficit. For the best efficacy, meaning enough of a deficit to actually lose weight, but not so big of a deficit that you lose muscle mass, you should aim for a moderate deficit of 500 to as many as 1,000 calories per day. That works out to roughly 1 to 2 pounds per week of fat loss based on 3,500 calories per pound of fat. This isn't sexy, but it's the fundamental law of thermodynamics. Every single successful weight loss transformation done naturally has come from a lifestyle alteration of diet, workouts, more steps, whatever combination of habits that created a calorie deficit. That is the only way. It always has been, and it always will be. Assuming you are actually tracking your food intake with a food scale and tracking software, the efficacy is 100%. Sustainability is very high at a moderate deficit, especially when paired with a high protein diet, resistance training, and increased step count. And from a health impact perspective, excess body fat is one of the most harmful things for your health behind excess smoking and excess alcohol intake. This is a no-brainer S-tier weight loss strategy. As a bonus S-tier addition, I'm going to add weighing yourself frequently. Bare minimum, multiple times per week, ideally daily, because weighing yourself is the only way to know you're actually in a calorie deficit. If you're losing weight week over week, you're in a deficit. If you're not losing weight, you're not in a deficit, and you need to adjust. Some people think frequent weigh-ins are psychologically harmful, but human randomized controlled trials have shown that frequent weigh-ins are tied to more weight loss, more sustainability, and actually have no negative impact on mental health. My advice is look at the scale every day just to collect data. Don't get emotionally attached and make strategy adjustments based off of daily fluctuations. Make decisions based on weekly averages. Are you weighing less week over week? If yes, you're in a deficit. If no, again, something must change. That is the S-tier masterclass of weight loss strategy. So there you have it. S-tier is absolutely required for a successful weight loss strategy. A-tier should 100% complement what you're doing in the S-tier. B-tier is a great addition to any plan. C-tier is more experimental. D-tier, you should probably avoid. It likely won't help you long-term. And F-tier, I recommend skipping out on entirely. If you got value from this video and you're a business owner who wants to work with me one-on-one to build a completely custom strategy using the same principles I've used to help over 1,200 of my own clients lose a combined total of over 10,000 pounds, click the link in the description below to apply. I work with a limited number of clients every year with the goal of helping them lose anywhere from 20 to 100 plus pounds and actually keep it off for good. And if for whatever reason you aren't satisfied with your results at the end of our time working together, I'll refund you in full. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.